this is George Sefton, the voice of Anfield, and you're listening to the Liverpool Connection podcast.
Hi everyone and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm your host Daz. This is my story podcast where I bring on a guest to tell their Liverpool story. And I saw this young lady about probably 4 or 5 months ago, and she just has this great smile about her, and I just loved the personality coming out of the video screen. She has a TikTok. Her name is LFC Jenna. And it's just great to see Liverpool supporters that have so much energy because, in this day and age, we go through, ups and downs in life. And, football is a massive part of my life. It's a massive part of, 99% of the world's life as well. And, when our team loses, which it hasn't, when our team is a bit down, you still want people bubbly and still smiling and having a laugh. And LFC Jenna is a part of that. So Jenna, welcome to the pod. It's great to finally have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So much to talk about. First, my first question always is why Liverpool? Why support this amazing football team? Well, first, obviously you're not a Scouser, which is nothing wrong with that, but you are a Northerner, so that's even better. So just a quick where you're from and everything.
So I'm from a little village called Billinge, which is near St Helens. So my dad's actually from Scotland, been down here for years. My mum's grew up in Billinge as well, but my granddad and my nana are both from Liverpool. My nana's from the Wirral, hence why I grew up supporting Liverpool. My granddad was actually, I think he was one of 8 or 9, and I think most of them are Evertonians apart from 2 were Reds. So I got the lucky side of the draw, I think. And yeah, my granddad used to take me to the football and kind of push that on me, which has worked out quite well because my dad's actually an Everton fan.
Oh.
But he's Scottish. So I feel like we'll let him off. So yeah, I remember growing up, my dad had an Everton season ticket. So I remember him getting ready and going to Everton games. And I was just always, my granddad was my best friend, rest his soul, but he was a Liverpool fan, and that's kind of where it came from, really.
I've spoken to so many, like I told you before off the camera, my granddad took me when I was 6, but it seems like a lot of granddads took their grandchildren, and my dad is a rugby supporter. He just thinks football's for puffs. He thinks even worse of football now, because of all the rolling around. So they never used to roll around in the 70s or 80s. Used to play with broken legs. They used to
the Jimmy Case era, everyone was fine.
Yeah, and just carry that bucket with the magic sponge that would, all of a sudden, you got a broken leg, you put that magic sponge on and you were fine. Yeah. These days, you're off, but yeah, he doesn't like the rolling around, the play acting, but yeah, granddad's a boss, aren't they?
Granddads are this. Mine was a very, very special human being, and it's actually been 10 years this year since he passed away, so I miss him every day. But he was very cool guy, and he would take me to the football, which is good because my mum was a big rugby fan. I live St Helens and Wigan's, I'm basically in the middle of that, and they're 2 huge rugby league towns. My mum was a big rugby league fan, but I just fell in love with football. I just remember as a young girl, I just always wanted. I just really liked it, and I think because my dad was so into it, and I got on with both my parents very well. They're still together and very much in love. But I loved being a daddy's girl when I was younger. So I remember him taking me to he used to use it as an excuse sometimes, and he'd be like, "Oh," so my mum was like, "I'm just going to go to the pub because Jenna wants to watch the football." So I think it was a good excuse for him. And my dad used to play a little bit and stuff. So just picked up loads of things and just fell in love with it and just became really passionate, always have been. So yeah, and fair play to my dad, actually, he did take me to my first game.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, so he took me to my first game. I must have been about 7 or 8, and it was the Merseyside derby, and he sat in Liverpool end with me. He did take me, and it was me, my mum and dad. And back then, you could mingle a little bit more with the teams. And I remember that Everton scored first, and my dad stood up and was like, "Yes!" And about 3 other people did, and my mum was just like, "Sit down now." And then we did equalise. I actually think it was Danny Murphy assist, and I think Anelka scored. But no, I think that was it. And then, after that, my granddad would take me, like, he literally lived around the corner from Anfield. So if we weren't at the game, we could open the window and hear the crowds. And it was just it was just about spending time with family and just being around people that you loved. And I suppose then that's evolved into kind of what it is now. I think back then it was very much, the lads had a couple of pints in a local pub beforehand, and now it's evolved into match day rituals and match days in general have just evolved into this huge day and this huge event. I gave I think I was on holiday maybe 2 years ago. I couldn't make it to a match, so I gave my mum my ticket, and she came and she said to me after, she was like, "I get it now." She was like, I understand it. And now she's really into the football, and my nana's got really into it as well, which is so lovely. And she's like, "I get it now. It's not just the going to the game and seeing people. It's the whole thing beforehand. It's who you go with, who you're meeting up with, who you're doing this. Is there a singer on somewhere? Is this and that? And it's just become such a community of people that, you do just look forward to it. You really do, especially if you've not had a home game for a little while and you haven't been able to make it to some aways, then it definitely is something that you look forward to for sure.
Well, it's like the football is, I mean, for me, is basically on the back burner. You plan your day around the game, but when my granddad took me, it was always the pub, then the game, then the pub. But like with your mates, you plan like a few bevies, then go find some other mates, have a pie. So it's you see, I like to see more families out. It's great to see mums and dads with their kids, but it's also great to see a lot more girls and women going to the match. Because I was a season ticket holder for a long time, and the lady that sat next to me had the worst gob on her that I have ever heard a woman come out with in my entire life. I mean, people around her were so shocked, like
a sailor on leave.
Yeah. But then you'd see her in the supermarket, sweetest lady, and
something feral comes out inside you when you're there, I think.
It's a bit like, every time I go back home and every time I go to a match, like, I always get goosebumps. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just walking up to Anfield, I get goosebumps, but then coming up the steps and then you smell the grass.
Yeah.
And, it was worse in the 70s because you'd smell piss. But they cleaned up a bit.
Is exactly the same as that. I did Milan away, and I think that's what's ingrained into me more than anything is the smell of ammonia from those San Siro toilets.
Yeah.
It was like, no.
It's bad. I mean, like, if you ever like travel, and you go to Central Station, Jesus Christ, those bathrooms. Like, I haven't been home in a few years. And I flew into Manchester and got the train from Manchester to Lime Street, then went to Central. Jeez, it hit me. And I was like, yep, I'm back home.
Yeah, I'm home. Everyone's like, what did you miss? And you're like,
smell of piss. No. But it's just that, for people that haven't been, it's just watching it on the telly, especially being over in the States, these people, supporters get up at God knows, like LA, they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning for a 4:30 kickoff over here, and in Austin, you know, we've the noon kickoffs back home is 6 o'clock here. So I commend everyone that gets up and goes down the pub. But like watching it on telly, you don't get the full effect, you know.
No.
Walking up and like I said, going up those steps and smelling the grass. And then the first thing you do, if you're not in the Cop, if you're in Annie Road End or the King Kenny, you look towards the Cop.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the first thing you do.
Yeah. I sit quite close to the Cop. So I'm in the main stand, but I sit quite close to the Cop usually. And it's special. It's just special. And I'm sure every fan of every football club will say that it's special for them when they go to their own grounds, and I can understand that. But I know I'm biased, but there's just something. And you know, I have a lot of friends, and I know a lot of people that support a lot of different clubs, and everyone will say it is, especially, you know, on a big match or when we really need everyone to be loud. And then, I mean, you'll know yourself, like a Champions League night on the nights, there's just something so special about Anfield, the Cop, like there really is. And I know, again, I am biased, but we have the best songs ever. You know, I think we have multiple songs for pretty much everybody. And I think that gives it a little bit more life. I think rather than just shouting your team name or giving abuse to the opposition, you know, we don't have to. We will, and we do, but we don't have to rely on a chant that gives abuse in order to support the team because we've got so many songs.
Well, I mean, like LA. Arsenal fans are singing it. Aston Villa fans are singing it. I'm like, get your own damn chant. I mean, to me, like, it helps the team. I mean, you know, if like Luis Diaz isn't playing very well, you know, you sing that song. That
my friend Andy wrote that song.
I know Andy. Yeah,
I know Andy really nice well. Yeah. He's so lovely, and
I'm so chuffed for him that it's.
Oh, me too. He's just so nice, and he is so talented, and he's like really just tried so hard. And I watched him. I didn't get to see him in Taggies at the weekend because I go to Hotel Anfield, but I will pop in to see him. But he was playing in Red Bar in town after, so I popped in, I bought him a drink, and I said hi. And he's just honestly such a nice fella, and I see him when with the kids and stuff that want to go and speak to him and stuff, and he's just got time for every single one of them. He's such a lovely guy. I'm really chuffed for him.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you know, obviously Jamie Webster was like the poster boy for singing, and I'm so happy for Jamie as well. You know, doing his thing. So it was time for somebody else to be in the limelight.
Passing the torch on, isn't it? I suppose
you've got Keo, you know, that does a lot as well, and Dave from Ragamuffins. You know, I had Andy on the podcast like 2 years ago now, and we've stayed in touch. And you know, I know about like, you know, his like musical like aspirations, what he wants to do, wants to, you know, write his own material, not just Liverpool stuff. But then when I heard him do the Luis Diaz one, I was like, this is gonna get sung on the Cop, and he was like, nah. I mean, that's gotta be like, you know, when the Cop sings the song that you've, you know.
It's got to be. And then I think, was it after the Leverkusen game when it finished? They were streaming after as everyone was leaving, they were streaming him playing it into the ground. And you mentioned Dave there from Ragamuffins. He plays in Hotel Anfield where I go for a match. And again, they're just such nice guys, like super talented, just so nice. You know, it's not easy to get up there in any aspect of life and perform. But to do it for that length of time with that rowdy of a crowd and keep everybody engaged and just everybody happy. I mean, hats off to both of them. But yeah, so chuffed. Yeah, Andy's done so well. Really chuffed for him. And I think it's actually the most sang song at the moment. I did Milan Away, and it was definitely the anthem of Milan. But yeah, it's just so it is. It's just catchy, and everyone's singing it. And you know, I've got friends who who don't even really watch football too much, but they've heard it and they're all like, it's stuck in my head. It's so good.
No, I mean, it's brilliant. Like, I just, again, I can't say enough about Andy. I'm just really proud of him. And
Yeah.
hopefully, he'll get to play more and more. Like, I know he went over to Norway and he's doing the Liverpool festival over there. But yeah, no, it's just great to see another Liverpool lad, doing well. And I tell him, like, get another one out there soon. I mean, like, we've got so many players that need one. Gakpo needs one. Curtis needs one. 100%.
Kelleher needs something.
Yeah, it does. Good Lord. Like, I mean, we've just got so many damn good players. I thought, like, obviously, losing Klopp was massive. I never thought that was coming. I mean, you always think, like, these players won't leave, this manager won't leave. I mean, we had him for 9 years, so, I mean, we can't really complain, and he looked knackered. But when I woke up that January morning, I did not expect that. And I thought it was a load of shite. I did. I was like, it's just typically in Twitter.
I was like, nobody talk to me. I need some annual leave.
And they're like, for what? You're like, oh, I can't talk right now.
I was like, I'm literally crying. No, and I think you're right in what you said. I was really lucky. I went to a little panel that Hotel Anfield put on at the end of last season, just in the days leading up to the last game. And it was like Pep Linders and Vito and John and all of the coaching staff and everyone that was leaving. And it was really our opportunity to say thank you to them for what they'd done. And I remember standing up and speaking, and I said, what them and what Klopp have got to realise is where Liverpool were when they took over is mid-table, and the feeling that we had around the city, the fan base, the club, was pretty much at a rock bottom. Nobody was excited, and they've brought that sense of community back to everybody. So when I say about you're excited to go to the games, you'll get messages off other Liverpool fans asking you for recommendations, where do we go, and everyone, you're meeting people, you're talking to people all the time, and that sense of community and excitement. And they have the tagline, don't they, you change us from doubters to believers, and that's exactly what it is. Came in, has won everything. We wanted him to win. Arguably, yes, not as much as we would have wanted, but that's not necessarily the most important thing. What they've done for us as a club is just brought this energy around it where, you look at, again, I'm going to sound like I'm being a Liverpool fan here, but, you look at Man United and the toxicity at that club from the top down is, Amorim might be an unbelievable manager. Do I think that an unbelievable manager has a opportunity to turn around a club that has that from the top down? Probably not, because nobody would be able to do that. And that's the thing now is, we've got this sense of community within the club, outside of the club, that it's just a joy to be around. And yes, it's easy to say that when we're on this amazing winning streak, but even after our one defeat in the Premier League this year against Nottingham Forest, at home, completely unexpected. But even after that, nothing was toxic, or I didn't see that, like, in and around the club or in and around the fan base. And I think with Arne Slot coming in, we didn't have any expectations this season. Like, we really, really didn't. In the same that we didn't have any the year, like Klopp's last year, because we'd redone the whole midfield. We didn't have any expectations. We just started really well. And that teaches us, it's the hope that can kill you, because we weren't expecting anything. But, you get to February and you're still in all 4 competitions and you're doing well. There's a little bit of you that gets excited. But, I think this year, all we want is to be playing Champions League football at a bare minimum, because, we are European royalty at the end of the day. What we've achieved in that competition is unbelievable. And that's exactly where Liverpool should be. But the run that we're currently going on and the way that the team is so together if you watch any of the backroom stuff of just the community that the players have got with each other, and then that comes out with the club. And I think like Schlott's obviously doing a really good job at the moment, and the position that we're in is kind of beyond anything that we could have expected, but trying not to get too carried away or too excited.
No, you can get too excited. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just you've got to rein, it in a little bit. It's only December. We've all know. I mean, from last season, we were quite a few points ahead as well. I think 10 points or something. Things change quickly in football, but what I think can say about Klopp is he left this club in such a good position. I've had this conversation with a few United fans. Fergie, even though he won the league, he left an aging squad.
Very aging squad, yeah.
And the problem is they haven't done sod all from there. Klopp knew if he kept most of this squad intact, because there's winners in this squad, and I think Slot coming in and not talking to the media for about a month, and this is where the toxic Twitter comes in. Why is he not talking to the media? Why? I mean, people were getting actually pissed off that Slot wasn't talking, and I totally understood why he wasn't. He wanted Klopp because, it got built up and up and up the Klopp's last day. And he just wanted time for that to kind of, kind of go down. And then Slot did his interview. And then there was people going, well, that's not much of a personality, is it? He's not really he's not going to give his personality in the first interview. But every presser I see now, more and more of his personality is coming out, and I like it. He's such a tactician. Loved Klopp, but it's like Slot tweaks. Like Kwanzaa against Ipswich. He knew Kwanzaa was going to be buried all day long, so he's like, I need to change it. He's not afraid to change these players and get him off the pitch, or you think this player's doing well, he can see things that we don't. And I think with Klopp, he would keep a player on longer than what he should be on. And I love to get the pressing from Klopp, but Slot has again reined it in, and we're
massively.
We're defending better. Klopp, it'd be like, we'll score more than you. And now Slot's like, we'll score more than you, but you won't get the goals. That's what I'm seeing.
It's exactly what I've said to some people. I think Klopp was very exciting football to watch. It was very gung-ho football. He completely, that you've got Robbo and Trent have basically completely redefined what a fullback was doing in those times. And even now, but under Slot, like you're saying, even they're not really getting forward as much. Everything is a lot more controlled. And in the first few games, as a spectator, it's a bit unnerving after being used to having Klopp for so long and a certain style of play. It's become really, you go a bit like, oh, come on. And you're a bit impatient. But as you're starting to learn, obviously, the style of football and how things are, I think the nerves have calmed down a little bit on that aspect. And then I think if we even look at, say, two biggest games arguably of the season we've just played this week against Real Madrid and Man City, and I was at both of them, and I can honestly say they're two of the best performances I've seen us put in. It's almost like at the beginning when we felt a bit nervous about maybe some of the slow build up and playing out from the back in the way that we were under Slot, we were a bit like, oh, I don't know. Whereas now I feel like that's even become, I think the players have got more used to that as well. And they all seem very confident in their job and what they're doing. Our midfield is working its arse off. Our midfield is pressing. It's doing everything it should. And then, we are then so extremely blessed to have the forward lineup that we do. And I think, we've still got, it's a wonderful problem to have when Alisson's out, who's, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in the world. And Kelleher steps up, who is arguably the second best goalkeeper in the Premier League, and he's actually a number 2. You know, that's a wonderful problem to have. Trent being, you know, who is a generational talent, he's got out injured. So we've put Connor Bradley on, who makes that tackle against Mbappe midweek, which was just forget the scoreline, forget the penalty save. That's my favourite moment of the whole game. It was unbelievable. You know, and then Curtis has really come into his own this year. Under slot, like really, you know, Curtis and McAllister. I actually thought before the international break, McAllister was playing a bit poor. And then Szoboszlai is such a strange one, because when he scored that worldie against Aston Villa last season in the Anfield Road end, everyone was like, oh, he's going to be so Gerrard-esque. He's going to be a proper box-to-box number 8. And although the output is a little bit more disappointing than what we thought it was going to be, and yes, we've seen glimpses of it with the goal against them, the goal against Leicester, but his work rate in that midfield, I thought he was absolutely sensational against Man City. I thought he was so good. And then obviously we're missing Jota, and I love Jota. I think he'd run through a brick wall or 2-foot his nan in the chest for a goal, like he will. Diaz is having a fantastic season. And then you've got Mo, who, you know,
he's Mo.
And it's just, you know, I think he's so disrespected. And I'm not saying that just as a Liverpool fan. I think the numbers and the consistency that he's put up year after year, you know, Ballon d'Or level of play, you know, top 3. What's he closing on now? I think he's closing in on Thierry Henry's Premier League goals.
Yeah, like five goals.
Records left, right and centre. Like, I would hate to. I think it will happen. I think he will get the credit that he deserves, but I don't want it to be in hindsight. I don't want it to be like you don't know what you've got until it's gone. And I think that as football fans, we should just be pretty privileged that we're seeing that in our generation.
Why do you think Salah's so disrespected though? Because it is bizarre. I mean, me and my mates had this conversation as well, and it's like he's scoring loads. But it's not just the goals, it's the assists.
Yeah. I couldn't actually say why I think he is, because I can't comprehend it. I don't know if it's people are latching on to, you know, perhaps when there was a setup with him, Bobby and Mane, he might have been a little bit more selfish, which I think in the last few years has really changed. I think he's definitely become a lot better at link-up play, and as you can see that in the fact that his assists are going up so much. But I couldn't tell you. I don't understand why he's not praised or put alongside in that Ballon d'Or lineup. I really don't, because the consistency, you know, everyone will talk about Erling Haaland at the moment, and yes, okay, Erling Haaland has put up some great numbers, but not in the same way that Mo has over the last however many years. You know, yes, like Haaland had an amazing first season. He obviously put up some numbers last year, but has he not scored in 5 now? You know, Mo scored in the last 6 Premier League games and assisted, you know, however many he scored in the Champions League. I just don't think that you can have great, but you can have one season wonders. I mean, Ollie Watkins put up a great season last year, and I don't think it's been the same level this year at all. And it's so difficult to perform that way consistently at the top level. And Mo's done that now for 6 years, longer. And
he's a winger.
Yeah, it's just, you know, he's not a poacher of the ball. He's not somebody that's hanging around the 6-yard box that's waiting for something to come in. He's somebody who makes things happen, and he gets back and he defends. And I've seen him run from one box to the other, and I just think it's and yeah, I mean, yeah, I think he's a very
Well, he's disrespected. Like I think on and off the pitch. Off the pitch, obviously not being in all these, you know, best player awards and stuff, but on the pitch, he never gets these decisions. Like
no,
the game against, was it Madrid and City? He's getting held back. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I get sick of it. I get sick of it. I can't imagine what he's going through. I mean, I love that little spat with Silva, because I cannot stand that little rat. And I was like, oh, is he going to smack him? Is he going to smack him? You know,
One of the greatest things about Mo, though, is how strong he is. You know, he doesn't look like he's that big, but the way that he will hold off a defender or he will get around people, it's one of the things that is, and I think it's something that if we were to say to compare that strength to somebody that is missing it. Not the same level of player, I'm not saying, but so Harvey Elliott, I actually really like the way that Harvey plays. I think it's been a real shame that he's been injured so far this season, because I do think he can bring a lot to the team. But his best attribute is the space that he can make for other people when he does not have the ball. I think he's really good at that. I think an area that he would personally to work on is the strength. I think he's too weak on the ball, and I think that's something that you could look to Mo for, to try and understand, just how Mo is outside of even the playing football. I think he's just an extreme professional all the way around, the way that he looks after himself, and they all do nowadays and stuff. But you've seen Mo when he takes his shirt off, I'm sorry, there's just like not an ounce of fat on the kid. And but yeah, I think it's incredible, and I think Mo has become a lot less selfish over the last 2 seasons or so, especially this year. I think his link up with Mane and Bobby is legendary. That's probably the best front three. At one point it was the best front three in the world, and it's up there with one of the best front three that's ever been. But Salah's link up play with Diaz and Nunes is actually really, really good. They seem to work really, really well with each other. And then obviously when we have Jota back and when he comes in, I think they do get on and kind of read each other and read the game really well with each other. Trent and Mo have got a great relationship. Trent's ball to Mo at the weekend for Mo's assist to Gakpo was, next level. And I think he's staying. I'm putting it out there.
I do as well.
I think all three are going to stay.
I do as well. I really do. Maybe Trent might go. I think it would just be, to me, he wants to be captain of Liverpool. He knows Virgil probably only has maybe 2 seasons, and then Chen could be captain. I just think with Mo, I just think it's the length of contract. I don't think it's about money.
No.
350k a week, that's pretty damn good, I think it's the length of the contract. And then I've heard like there's with footballers these days, it's image rights. How much percentage do they get for a shirt that's sold? It's just but I just think he's, when he came out and said what he said, he's just frustrated about the whole thing. But it doesn't mean negotiations aren't going on, because the contract has not been given to Abbas, his agent. I just think it's all you never want a player that's going to be all about him. It's because the club comes first. That's what there's no player, as we always say, is bigger than the club. It's got to be where it suits the club and the player.
Yes.
100%. And I just think we'll probably, I'm hoping we'll hear in the next couple of weeks, we'll have an early Crimbo present. Because I am getting a bit more nervous, but if they're not playing any less, Virgil, I think will sign 100%. I think that might be already done. Trent, I like what he said. It's not going to get played out in the media, so that's what in public. It's just going to go under the radar, and he's probably going to put on a little Santa hat, come out and go.
Oh, I'd hope so.
That's the thing. That if they do leave, there'll be 3 more players that will come in and carry on what we've always done. For me, growing up, Keegan was my first footballing hero, and he left after the year, and I was like, "You sack of shit." Well, I was 6 years old, so I didn't use the word sack of shit, but I had a massive poster and I ripped it. And I threw it in the bin, and my granddad found it, put it back together with with tape, and his hands were shaking at me and goes, "Don't you dare disrespect a player that has put on that shirt." I was like, "All right, that's all right, calm down." But he was like, "He's gone, and there'll be another player that comes in and takes his place." And who was it? It was King Kenny.
Yeah.
So, they come and go, but I will be, I mean, if it does happen, I mean, eventually it's going to happen, isn't it? They're going to leave, but hopefully not this year. But if it does happen, I'll be sad. But that's an opportunity for another player to come in and stamp his name, in Liverpool folklore. But talking of favourite players, who is your favourite? I mean, have you changed? Like when you first went to the match, who was your favourite?
So my favourite player, like growing up, was Steven Gerrard. I actually met him in a restaurant in Formby when he'd just broken into the first team, and he was so lovely. My mum had gone over and was like, "I'm really sorry, like, do you mind if my daughter has a picture with you?" And he'd come out from his table and put his arm around it, and I've still got the picture somewhere, and my nana's got it. And it was on like a proper, you had to go get the pictures developed and things like that because we didn't know, it wasn't camera phones then. And Patrick Berger was in the same day as well, so I had a picture with him. But Stevie was the one I was most excited about. I've actually worked at Anfield before. I used to work in like some of the lounges in the hospitality as a hostess, and I've met quite a few of them. Jimmy Case is one of the nicest men I've ever met in my entire life. He was so lovely. Every time he was in there as a legend. I've met Phil Thompson quite a few times. Again, just really nice people. But if we're talking about current squad favourite player, I am absolutely obsessed with Andy Robertson. I'm absolutely obsessed with him. So my flag that I take to the game with me is a Scottish flag, but it's in Iron Brew colours, and it says 26 Andy Robbo, so a little Iron Brew man on it. And I just love him. I think he's hilarious for a start. I love his personality. Like, you watch him in the back room, like in the back, like the behind the scenes stuff, and he just makes me absolutely howl. Not only that, I think he's a workhorse. I think he's really, like, he would die for the badge. Like I said, I think I've used this phrase before, but he would 2-foot his nan in the chest for a win. And yeah, I won't have any Andy Robertson slander anywhere near me. But yeah, I would. Andy's my favourite.
I just don't understand the Robbo. Like, it's bizarre to me. Like, people have dips in the season, and he had a few injuries.
Yeah,
but like the last couple of games, that's the old Andy. It's the old Andy we all know.
We've been away some pens, because there was one Southampton, one against Madrid, but I just think do I think that maybe he's not yeah, probably. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can see you.
Oh, you can see. There you go. I could hear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
It's an Everton on your roof.
So yeah, so I don't know what you heard. I know, yeah, exactly. It must be me dad doing something funny. So yeah, I think you can obviously tell with Robbo that there's been some, he might not be as quick or have the legs that he's necessarily had over the last couple of years. But one, like you said, there's been the injuries, and two, he is. I mean, he's the same age as me, or I think maybe a year younger. But the body can only hold up for so much, and I think when you've had as much of an output as you've had over the last few years, your legs are going to go a little bit. But it would always still be in my starting 11, no questions asked. I think what he brings to the squad, what he brings to morality, what he brings on the pitch, his desire, his willingness to just go to the ends of the earth for the badge. I just love him. I think he's brilliant, and it's a genuine manifestation, like life goal of mine. I will one day get his shirt from him. I want a shirt off his back when he finishes a match. I'm going to frame it in the house.
I think once he finishes football, he could be a comedian. 100%.
Oh, he's just brilliant. He makes me howl. But that
one where it's probably written for him, but the one where he's listening to Nunes, and Nunes is speaking in obviously Spanish, and Robbo's just like, I don't know what you said, but I love it. And that was probably pre-written, but it's just the way he says it. And you're just like,
Yeah.
even with Harvey, he was going, you want to turn around, the camera's there, so why don't you smile at it? He's just a cheeky little lad, isn't he? Yeah, I know he's in his 30s, but he's just a cheeky little Scotsman. And like you need leaders like that in this team, and that's why we're doing so well, because we've got people like him, Van Dijk, Mo as well. But the younger lads like Curtis, to me, they're stepping up. I mean, it seems like every single season there's always a scapegoat. That people, Lucas was a massive one. Lucas didn't play very well for the first, year. The claws were in, he's shite. And then now it was Curtis. He's only in the team because he's a Scouser. I'm like, are you actually listening to yourself? You really think one the best managers in the world, Klopp, would keep him in the squad because he's a Scouser?
Yeah, I think he's really stepped up this season, because I will hold my hands up. Like I have been a Curtis Jones critic in the past. I think, and there's still parts of his game that, by the way, I thought against Chelsea, he was unbelievable. I thought he had a brilliant game, but there's certain parts of it, sometimes I think he almost feels like he has more time on the ball than he actually does, and therefore he can be caught out quite a few times. But again, the way that he's stepped up, and also, I mean, he must have, the chances he missed when we played Crystal Palace last year are still make me a little bit heartbroken. But he's really matured as a player over the past 12 months. I think he has really stepped up, and we've now got this midfield that does almost right itself, but he's there, and it's him, McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch. Like that's the midfield at the moment that I mean, what a season Gravenberch's having though.
Yeah,
like playing as number 6 is just unbelievable. I do still think that we'll probably go for Zubimendi, because I do think that Slot wants him, but I also say, well, if he doesn't want to come, then I don't want him. But he'd be above Ryan. I think Ryan's having a tremendous season.
Yeah, I think everybody, when they said, Grav is going to be the number 6, I mean, I was like, you are. Like, I never ever thought he would be playing the way he plays. I mean, he's got Cruyff-esque turns. I mean, he turns like butter. It's just unbelievable. But it's the team he's playing in. He's standing out because he's got Maka next to him, he's got Curtis next to him, he's got Dom in front of him. It's working as a team. But I do think we will probably, like you said, I think we'll go in for somebody in January, whether it's Zubimendi or somebody. Obviously, Endo is not the Slot's liking, but there's nothing better to have a player like Endo for the last 5 minutes.
You've got to have someone like that. Puts his gum shield in and he's away.
And you can go, all right. He's kind of like a James Milner, was last season, where just need 10 minutes of him just to calm everything down, and he'll do that. But the way we play, we kind of need somebody that has a bit of pace, because Ryan's good at that. But I could never have imagined, like, you tell me, Klopp's left, brand new backroom staff. We Chiesa, and that's it. And we're going to be December top of the league, not only in the Prem but in the Champions League. I would have said, fuck off. Stop it.
Exactly. I don't think anyone expected it. And, we're unbeaten in the Champions League. We're the only team that are. And, and it's funny because you see Arsenal fans especially agreeing like, oh, they've not played anyone. They've become insufferable. And they're like, they haven't played anyone. I'm like, hang on a minute. We had Bologna at home. We've been away at Leipzig, away in Milan, Leverkusen at home, Madrid at home. Unbeaten in the Champions League. I think we've conceded 2 goals in the Champions League.
2 goals.
Nothing. We've conceded 6 or something in the Prem. we've played City, we've played Arsenal,
Chelsea, United.
Yeah, United, like
United.
Chelsea. And I just think, you okay? Like, we went into October knowing we were going on to our death run, because it was literally, we started with Chelsea at home, then we had Leipzig away, Chelsea at home, Leipzig away, 2 Brighton games, 1 in the Cup, 1 in the Prem, Aston Villa, Southampton, throw in Leverkusen and Madrid and City. And we've dropped 2 points in all that time.
And that was at Arsenal.
Yeah, and that was at Arsenal. And it's absolutely like, look, we all know that City are very good in the second half of the season. Although, I'll leave whatever's happening at City for people that are City fans to talk about, because that's their business. But there's something there's something not gelling there, and they need to do something in that midfield, because that midfield in City is no longer working, and that's where they're being dominated. But we're 11 points clear of City, and we're 9 points clear of Arsenal. That's a lot, especially when, look, we all know form can change, and we all know, like you said, anything can happen in football. But you need to lose a good few chunk of games or go on a really bad run to have that gap get closed in a significant amount. And yes, things get harder after Christmas, because we're still in all 4 competitions. FA Cup starting, we just drew Accrington Stanley yesterday, didn't we? So FA Cup starting, we've got a Carabao Cup quarter final. We've still got Champions League. Good thing with the new format in the Champions League is we obviously are going to get automatic qualification, so there's no extra games in there. But we all know that it's the season. It's absolutely relentless. It's a game every 3 or 4, every 2 or 3 days actually. That's hard. And when we talk then about maybe bringing somebody in for that number 6 role in January, I think that would probably be the smart move, because Ryan is having a fantastic season, but one injury completely changes the dynamic of that midfield, and that's where we've been so strong. Sorry, I think I need to sneeze. So no, but yeah, it's beyond kind of what we could have expected, I think, and you can definitely feel it like around the place, like in the pub beforehand and everything. Everyone's buzzing, really buzzing,
as it should be. I don't take anything for granted, and I'm just happy where we're at, and it's great to see Arsenal supporters crying and this bollocks with
bathing the tears, like
Arsenal, like saying they've had this many injuries. I'm like, well, we've got our best finisher, Jota, out. We had Trent out. We've got the number 1 goalkeeper in the world out. I'm just like, everyone gets injuries, and you can't. That's life. Get on with it. Right now, our backline's looking a bit bare thin. I mean, Simicast out for probably a couple of weeks, Canute and Bradley probably all of December. So that's why we kept. Another player that doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Joe Gomez is what you're about to say, isn't it?
All this shit last season, and then the summer we need to bin him. Thank God we didn't bin him, because he can play right back, centre back, left back, defensive midfield. In the next couple of games, you've got Robbo cannot play 90 minutes against Newcastle and then Everton. There's no chance. And I think what's going to happen is maybe Robbo will play 60 minutes against Newcastle with Gomez, and then Trent Gomez will probably move to right back, Kwanzaa will move to centre back, and that's probably how Slot's gonna have to do it to get through December. Hopefully Simi comes back in the next couple of weeks, but I mean, if we get through December unscathed and maybe drop a few points but still be 6 points ahead, I'm gonna be happy with that. I really am.
And I agree with you on that point, because Andy Robertson against Everton is probably like my favourite version of Andy Robertson. Him
and Pickford.
Him and Pickford, and then who was it? Tom Davies. He had a bit of a pop out one time as well. Andy Robertson against Everton is my favourite version of Andy Robertson. So I do agree with you on that. And again, I've always held my hands up on this. There's been times in the past where I have been really critical of Joe Gomez. I think there's been too many mistakes. But then last season, I mean, he became invaluable. The one thing and I know everyone goes on about it, and I hate to be that person. I would love him to score, because obviously, he's never done it. He's our longest serving player, and I think the frustrating thing is, he had 2 chances the other day when he come on, and I was like, oh God. But if you ever watch him in training, his free kicks are brilliant. Like he can do it in training. He can do it. But he just hasn't been able to do it on stage yet. But I think when he does, I'd love it to obviously be at a home game, because I think everyone would just get so behind him. And he just seems like a really nice guy.
The roof will come off.
The
roof will come off. But yeah, he just doesn't get deplored. It's just, I mean, but as players, though, they need to play games and confidence. And I think that's why Curtis is doing so well. Plus, like, he's a dad. I think that's changed him a little bit. But with Joe's always come in. He's happy as a squad player, but he's happy to come in and play wherever, like, Klopp wanted him, wherever Slot wants him. And you need players like that in the squad. And I really do appreciate him. And other people just, they are who they are. They want to complain about every goddamn, like, Liverpool player that's ever existed. And for me, you can critique a player. I'm all right with that. But when you start getting nasty, like, get him out, ship him out of Liverpool after, like, one bad game, I'm just like, you're not a Liverpool supporter.
No, that's not how we treat our players. And, I think we talked off camera earlier about the social media. And I think it gives people what they think is the freedom to say things about people that they wouldn't necessarily say to people's face, not even necessarily, that they definitely wouldn't say to people's faces. It becomes keyboard warriors, and it breeds a lot of this toxic masculinity that can be in a small percentage of football fans. Most of it comes from people that probably haven't gone to the game. And again, you can't. It doesn't matter if you go to the game or not. It doesn't mean that you're not a fan, because obviously it's going to the game is so difficult. It's expensive. It's hard to get tickets, like, et cetera, et cetera. But there's people out there that are seeing a small snippet of a player on TV or watching a different game to most people around them, and they think that they want a scapegoat. When we were saying before, there's always a scapegoat in a season or something, and they use social media to attack that person because it makes them feel better about their own life.
100%. Well, and plus they probably steal their parents' password for the internet. And when the parents have gone to bed, I mean, I'm probably talking about like a 50-year-old man, because most middle-aged bricks,
keyboard in the other.
The absolute fucking weirdos. But talking of social media, I mean, you started your TikTok, so. When was you were saying your friends kind of pushed you to...
Yeah, so we were at a party, and we had a few drinks, a few margaritas had gone down, and my friends were just like, you should just start posting like a little like blog or vlog or something about like your match day experience of like you going to the football, your analysis, your pre-match like thoughts and kind of what you wanted to do. And I was a bit like, oh, I don't know. As I've just said, like social media can be very toxic. And I was like, oh yeah, do you know what? After a few drinks, I was like, yeah, that's fine. Let's do it. It'll be great. So we started LFC Jenna on TikTok around September time. Just after I got back from Milan, it was, so about then. And the first video went a bit crazy. And I think that's obviously how you came across what we were kind of doing. It's like 200,000 views on TikTok. There was like 500,000 on Facebook because someone had shared it. There's, YouTube and different things. And, 99.9% of the comments and everything was so lovely. But there is that small percentage of comments that are fucking horrible. And I was like, gosh, do I want to continue to do this? Like, you know, I have to give complete shout out and like complete props to my friend Ollie though, because I can't even turn a laptop on. I'm not a techie person. I like pen and paper. I like old school stuff. Ollie does all of the filming, he does all of the editing, he does all of the captions, and I wouldn't do it if it wasn't for him, because I just don't particularly like being on social media too much, if that makes sense. I couldn't sit there and edit it. I wouldn't have the patience or the talent to do it. But it's just a little bit of fun, and it's doing quite well. And I think if it can give, it's fun for me to do it. And if it means that it kind of gives me another opportunity to chat to more people, because people do come up to me and like say, oh, I follow you, or I've seen this, or it gives a bit of an insight to people that aren't going to the game, and it just gives them like a little bit more of like the feel of it, then like you said, that's nice. I've had some really lovely comments and really lovely messages. There's been some horrible ones, but 99% of the horrible ones all come from exactly the same people that comment on every single post that you put up, and they're all men, and they all must be very insecure in their masculinity, that they don't like the fact that a woman can come online and talk comprehensively about football. They also don't like the fact that I don't have a Scouse accent. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, that's actually fine with me, because I mean, after a couple of drinks, sometimes I get a bit of a Scouse twang because that's where my family's from. But doesn't mean, and everyone's like, support your local. And I'm like, well, actually, it's not that far. So, and that's where I was taken as a kid. And that to me is just like, why does it bother you? I actually got told, and some of them are so funny. I got told that I was taking the place at the game of somebody who actually deserved to be there. I got told that I looked like I wore a dummy till I was too old. And then somebody commented once.
That's actually class, that.
Somebody commented once and said that my hair dye looks cheap. Get back in the kitchen.
They've got to all get back in the kitchen. Crap.
That's a classic. I've had, that you're such a wall. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that bothers you more than it bothers me. Oh, I also got, imagine being 40 years old and dancing around like that. But again, like, I have to laugh these things off, because I'm not hurting anybody doing what I do. I'm actually pride myself on being a very nice person. I've always got on with everybody I've sat with around me at a game. I back myself in what my opinions and my analysis and my chat about football, not just Liverpool, but football in general. And if somebody wants to, like we said before, sit in their mum's basement with their cock in one hand and then a laptop in the other, and write nasty things to a young woman online who's just being authentically themselves, then I feel really sorry for them. Yeah. But this is what we meant about social media. It breeds like nastiness and toxic people, because they feel untouchable and invincible because they're sat behind a laptop and sat behind a keyboard. And it also comes from football. 99% of football, 90% of football is a beautiful community. It's a place that you'd want to take your children, want to take your family. I've met some of my best friends through football. I've had some of my greatest trips through away games and European nights and stuff. There is a small side of it that breeds toxic male behavior. And, it's, we're not going to get too political on things like this, but it's up to other men to call out that behavior massively. I have a lot of male friends from, still from school, or when I've lived abroad, or from the football. I'm friends with all of my, our group is a load of couples. Like, I'm friends with all of them. And they are lovely, lovely men. They are just, and they are in each other's company. And they say that you're a reflection of the 5-6 people that you spend the most time with. So, and they're just lovely people. And it's such a shame that there is men out there that obviously don't necessarily have those people around them to call them out on. So it's it can breed a bit of toxic. But again, I always just think it's fragile masculinity if you can't have a woman talk about about football. And like I said, it's if you want to sit behind a keyboard, and I've never watched a video or a podcast or anything that somebody's done. I might not have enjoyed it, or I might not have liked it, but I would never then go and write anything on that. And it's the younger generation that I feel more sorry for in that situation. You know, we have to try and protect the younger generation of men that are coming through and teach them that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to like have both masculine and feminine energy, and it's okay for you to hold space for people. And as I know that's a bit of a Gen Z tagline I've just used there, but it is true. And I think that social media can be a toxic place for that. So I'm just myself. Football is a massive passion of mine. You know, I'm at every single home game, whether that's a Prem game or a cup game. I go to as many aways as I possibly can do. And it's a joy. Like, and if you can put that on social media, and it's fun for me, and it's fun for 90% of the people that watch it, then that's great. And if there's a small portion of society out there that don't like it, then well, tough shit. You know, I don't like coriander, but it still exists. So that's kind of where we're at with it. So yeah.
Jenna, you got to look at the plus side too. I bet you get messages from girls, which I think's great. I mean, again, in the 70s when I first went, 99% all men. It was. So every time I go home, I see more and more girls and mums going, and I love that, because it's okay for another human being, whether they're a male or female, to know a bit more football than me. It's okay. I'm all right with it. I'm okay in my own skin to say, wow, she knows more than me. Congratulations, because I'm not a stat person. So if you came at me with all these stats, I'd be like, oh shit, she knows a lot. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, and you are right about I met this young girl on Sunday before the match, and I've been talking to my friends. They were sat on our table. She was with her friend and her dad and granddad, and I walked off to go do something. She turned around to my friend and she was like, oh, is that the girl that does the TikToks? And my friend was like, yeah, it is. And she was like, oh, and then she asked me for like a little picture, and I interviewed her, like her score predictions and stuff, and it was just so lovely. And like, I want to make it very clear, like, I'm not an influencer, like I'm not anything like that, but I'm just a young woman who enjoys football and decided to put it on social media. But for have a young girl come over and want to talk to you about it, and if even just her or a handful of young women feel more confident to express that they've got an interest in a male-dominated field, then that's just a lovely thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what we need. I mean, football's for everyone. That's what I grew up with. It doesn't matter, race, religion, whatever, sex. Don't matter if you're stood next to me and you're screaming at the players on the pitch.
Yeah,
you're all right with me. It's just, again, we live in a world that's just, it's social media based, and you be cancelled any time for saying like the wrong thing or even the right thing. But at the end of the day, we're all football supporters, and we support the same team. So I just don't understand all the bullshit that goes on social media.
And I will say, outside, most of these like nasty comments that we get are actually, football fans of other clubs, been like the odd Liverpool one. But 99% of Liverpool fans, or 99.999% of Liverpool fans online, have been so lovely to me. And every single guy, I know I've just gone on a bit of a rant about toxic masculinity then, but every single male that I have ever interacted with at the football from a Liverpool fan base, whether that be here, over abroad, or, when we went San Siro, nothing like that, have all been so, so lovely. And not one person has made me feel like I shouldn't be there, or any other female fan that I'm with. It is it's an amazing fan base. It's a really good community to be involved in. I think, just like you said, I think some of the others on social media can be a little bit, as you said, but like you said, football's for everyone. Sexuality, race, religion, gender, it is for everyone. And like you said, as long as somebody's sat next to you screaming the same things as you are, I've got more of a problem of people that come to the game and watch the game through their phone than I have of somebody stood next to me who is of a different sex or religion or race or anything like that. Like, I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with when you watch it through your phone. That should be more of a problem, and we should be trying to reduce that. You know, we talked a little bit briefly before about both of our love for music. You know, I used to live over in Ibiza, and I look at how it was in clubs when I was first going to where it is now, and everyone's out on their phone. And I understand maybe the odd song you want to record because you're like, I want to remember this in the morning, but just live in the moment. That's a topic that we should be talking about more. That should be more of an issue, that we should, you know, be living in the moment of that, not whether I'm a female and want to watch football.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to leave it there because that's a good place to leave it. But where can everyone find you?
So you can find me on TikTok under LFC Jenna, and also on YouTube under LFC Jenna.
Yeah, please, everyone, go over to TikTok and YouTube. Please subscribe to her channel. Again, Jenna, it's been great having you on. It's, you know, the whole reason I do this is to bring people like yourself on to tell their Liverpool stories. And, you know, you've come on and it's a happy place. You know, it's great to meet like-minded people that don't give a crap about like what you wear, what you look like. You support Liverpool Football Club, you're all right with me. But if you're a knobhead, you can go jog on.
Exactly that. But honestly, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Please like and subscribe, put your notifications on, and we'll see you next time.